para que le pueda dar la visa a una persona tiene que tener un buen trabajo estable, trabajar en el gobierno, tener una casa, cuenta de banco y tener dinero. Entonces, si tiene dinero y una cuenta de banco y una casa, ¿para qué quiere venir a trabajar acá? Entonces no tenemos otro camino más que venir ilegalmente, pero no es fácil. Es muy arriesgado en el camino. Arriesga uno la vida, la familia, y se viene solamente con la fuerza de venir a encontrar una vida mejor y pensando en las personas que uno deja allá, que son sus papás, sus hermanos, y que uno sabe que no los va a volver a ver en mucho tiempo. No sabe uno cuándo va a volver a verlos en la vida.
I don't know, honestly. They probably have to jump through a bunch of hoops. They probably have to have family members here that are legal. They probably have to go through some immunizations. I'm not sure, and it probably depends on what country you're from.
I know it isn't very easy for me to go on a mission trip to Mexico because I don't have papers and because I have a felony, because of felonies and criminal histories. So it should be equally the same for them, I would hope.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure how the process works.
Oh, good question. I just thought they'd like fly over to like the Statue of Liberty and then waddle somewhere like to a building where they get their stuff and they're like, here, have a green card. And you're like, okay, thanks. And then you do your test and all that other good stuff.
I imagine they have to go to the state house or whatever state they go to, some governmental building to apply. I'm not sure how it works, but quite a few of the people that I've worked with, they are legitimate, they're legal, they have their time in here. You know, they got a certain amount of time, and then they have to either go back or get their visas renewed. So I don't know how it works, to be honest with you.
It's harder to immigrate from certain countries where, you know, the incidence of fraud is higher, or they're, you know, in many instances at least, there are limitations to the number of green cards or immigrant visas that can be issued.
If you're from a small rural community in Mexico and you're primarily a subsistence farmer living off of a ranch or your land, and you decide that you want to come to the United States, I don't think you can, you know, it's not like you met your buddy on the golf course who said, hey, I know this really good immigration attorney that can help you do it. I don't think you have the resources or oftentimes the educational level to know what the options are.
Mm-hmm. And there may not be any options to do it legally.
Right. And
that's a common misperception. Why don't they just do it legally? Well, because there isn't a legal way for that person to do it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, I mean, and I think that's where some of the misconceptions have arisen, that so many times people think, well, I have to have a lot of money or a lot of money in the bank to be able to come here. Well, that's not exactly the standard. I mean, the legal bar is that you have to prove that you're going to leave. That is so hard for somebody to prove that's not coming from a very good situation. And I don't think they realize that's what the consulate officer is looking for, and if they did, they probably would see it kind of as futile trying to apply.
A very basic process is you're going to have a stop at the U.S. Embassy or consulate, and you're going to have to submit an application. And there's very basic, there's either a non-immigrant visa, which means you're coming here temporarily for a temporary period of time and you do intend to return after you do whatever you're doing here. Or an immigrant visa, which means you're asking for permanent residency U.S., you're asking to come and stay permanently. For a non-immigrant visa, you're going to be expected to demonstrate exactly what John just spoke of, your intention to and ability to return to Mexico after you come here to visit family, go see the Statue of Liberty, whatever it is, And you also have to be able to convince them that you're not coming here to work illegally. And that's a pretty high bar for someone who doesn't have the financial resources or things like that. So an immigrant visa would have to start with a petition by an employer or a family member. And that can take years in order to create an opportunity for somebody to get an immigrant visa through either route. So
and kind of the reason for that, and I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about our immigration system that oftentimes the people going through it don't understand, because they apply for something and they get this notice back that says you're approved. Well, that merely just approved them for a spot in the line. Because we do limit, and Congress set a long time ago this idea of numeric limits or quotas for the number of people that we allow to immigrate here. Interestingly, we don't treat any country differently. The maximum that any one country can get is no more than 7% of the total. So what has happened, though, if you're from a country that has a lot of people that want to immigrate, for instance, Mexico, and the total number of visas, let's say, that we're giving out is 226,000 in a given category. Well, with no more than 7% going to Mexico, well, that's fewer than maybe 15, 16, 17,000 visas. For the entire country of Mexico, for all of these different family categories, from whether you're the brother or sister all the way up to whether your parent is a U.S. citizen petitioning for you. And what has happened is we've received maybe more than 1 million applications for what is essentially 17,000 spots each year. And so what it's created is these enormous backlogs. So you apply to get in line, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get a visa this year, next year, or not maybe even for 10 or 15 years. You may wait hoping that your turn comes. And that's what I think people don't understand. And that is what I think has created a huge problem, because these waits have even crept into our employment options. So some employers, if I identify this perfect candidate and I want to bring them here to work for my company, am I going to wait 8 years to do it? Do employers plan, 5, 6 years and out to hire somebody? No. And so that's where I think our own immigration system now has begun to fail us. Yeah, we're fortunate that we have so many people that have demanded and want to come here. We're lucky. We're like the kids on the playground that get to pick the kickball team, but at the end of the day, our own system has kind of failed us because it's not working. The waits are too long.
There's a huge segment of the illegal alien population here that had no part in coming here. They were brought as children, they've been raised as American, they hardly even speak Spanish, they don't even, never been to Mexico, they don't even know what their village looks like or how to get to it, they don't know what pesos are, they don't know anything except America. And so they are American for all intents and purposes, and they go to high school and graduate, or some go to Columbia and Harvard and IU and Stanford and they graduate, and guess what? They can't work. They can't even work at, in the orange groves in Florida. They can't be a brain surgeon and they can't pick corn. They can't do anything through no fault of their own. So that's a huge segment of the population that if the public is at all empathetic or sympathetic to the issue of immigration, that's a huge segment of the population that could be very valuable to our future as a country that we're ignoring only because we all people see as illegal alien. Well, and I get that it creates a motivation to bring children when they're illegal if you then give them status, but there are people who are here now who are in the pipeline and who are someday going to have no way to be contributing members of the society if they can't work.
And there was recently a thing on CNN that talked about this, some town or community group that was, if your parents went to the softball or the Little League game and acted rowdy in the stands, we were going to punish the child and make it so that the child can no longer play in the league. And people went berserk and said that that is so un-American. You're punishing a child for the actions of a parent. And I'm like, but how is that any different than what we're doing right now with children who were brought here by parents illegally? We are punishing children for the actions of the parent, and I think if anybody ever tried to get to know and understand, that's just not right. That is un-American, and we don't want to do that, and we can fix that. And we can fix that in a way that is not going to create an incentive for other people to bring their children here. But we need to recognize that there are millions, potentially, of children who came here through no fault of their own and are valuable assets.
I mean, a lot of them are dying to serve in the military. Can't do it.
You know, a lot of them are at the top of their class academically, and to have a resource like that, and for them to feel that they can't get a college education or can't pursue a career in this country and contribute, it just, to me, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Especially when you consider they're not going to leave. They're not going to go pick up and go
to someplace that they've never been.